It wasn't his first heart attack. And he'd signed a DNR. And on his deathbed, he was surrounded by nurses, and that was it. And we asked him, is there anyone we can call? And his words, I still hear his voice clear as day. I don't have anyone because I told them that I never wanted to see them again.
Oh. It all starts with a single question asked to an anonymous caller. What do you think happens when we die? And from there, the conversation goes in completely unexpected directions. Some speak with certainty, others with doubt. Some are still trying to make sense of it all. I'm Zach Ansell, and this is When We Die Talks, a podcast about death, meaning, and how that shapes the way we live. This podcast was born from my own fears around death and the need to talk about it. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. I'm glad you're here. This episode is supported by Mnemostheny, a project I've been building alongside this podcast. Mnemostheny is a simple way to tell your story in your own voice. It's a guided, audio-first conversation with me where we capture the parts of your life that matter to you, where you came from, the people who shaped you, the seasons that changed you, and the moments you don't want to lose. It's not therapy and it's not a performance. It's just a real conversation that becomes a private audio keepsake you can share with the people you love or keep for yourself. If you want to learn more, you can find it at mnemostheny.com. That's NEMOSENE.com. Hey, welcome back or welcome here if this is your first time. Before we jump into this week's call, I wanted to say something briefly about last week's episode with Dawn. It's been a while since we took a break from the anonymous format, but when we do, it means something. And that one meant a lot, probably more than I can ever express. I've received more feedback about that episode than anything else I've ever put out. People saying they cried the whole way through, that it hit them somewhere they weren't expecting. I'm genuinely honored by that, and I'm grateful to Dawn for trusting me with it. To be completely honest with you, I still haven't been able to listen back to it myself. I don't think I'm ready yet. That'll come with time. But thank you, sincerely, for the warmth you've shown around it. This week, we're going back to the anonymous format, and I think it's a fun one to jump back into. Our caller is a nurse, which already puts them in a category of people who are around life and death in a way most of us aren't. On average, they're present for roughly 2 deaths a week. But the curiosity didn't start with the job. When they were a teenager, they lost their childhood best friend, someone they'd known since they were 9, someone they described as their ride or die. They were there when it happened, and they were the one doing the CPR. And that loss and the questions it left behind is a big part of what sent them towards nursing in the first place. What grew out of all that wasn't a fear of death. It was something that I think a lot of people can relate to, a fear of leaving people behind. This conversation goes a lot of places. We talk about reincarnation through the lens of a Mario video game, which sounds absurd and somehow works completely. We talk about what it feels like to watch someone die when you've done everything right. We talk about a man who spent his final moments alone because of something he said 20 years earlier that he never took back. And underneath all of it, there's this person who's seen more loss than most people twice their age, and they still show up. Still hopes they get to give the most embarrassing wedding speeches of all time for their sisters and their best friends. Let's get into the call. I hope you enjoy.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. How's your day going?
It's going all right. I got some weird news before I messaged you about an hour ago or whatever, so I'm in like a little weird mood, but I'm excited for our call.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. I'm sorry to hear about that weird news, though.
Yeah, that's life sometimes, right?
Never could. Honestly, it's going to be like that.
Life is gonna life.
For real.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for being willing to do this. I feel like the first really big question that I like to ask, and it could send us off into a full long conversation, but maybe just briefly you could let me know why you even wanted to do this call. I mean, it is a topic that a lot of people tend to avoid and don't like to talk about. And then I'm also a complete stranger that you saw probably something on Instagram. So yeah, I'm just curious why this seemed interesting or something that you wanted to do.
Well, I'm a nurse.
Okay.
So life and like what happens after it, or if there is anything after it, or like what death does, is like something, you can call me morbid, but it's like a morbid fascination.
Okay.
Because like when you work in a healthcare field, you see so many people every day who are just so stressed about life. And then you see people who are like about to die. And it makes you wonder at the end of the day, like what actually happened.
Yeah.
Is there a place where people go? Or is it just that you close your eyes and you're taking a very long nap?
Yeah. I love that. Continue. Yeah, go ahead.
And sometimes I think it might be a very long nap, and other times I'm like, well, I hope there is something out there afterwards.
I love this kind of setup because that'll be the big question that I ask you in a couple seconds. But it's also interesting. I love getting the perspective from people who, I don't just want to say that are in the medical field, because I think although I think that kind of covers a lot of it, but that are more in tuned, or someone that is around it a lot more than the general population. I love talking to people that see it day in and day out, because I think it is a completely different perspective and understanding than 99% of people. So I'm excited to dive into that. And then from your application, you had some interesting kind of mentions, and I don't want to, I don't know. I don't like to share what you shared with me because I don't want to spoil or anything, but we'll get into all that in a second. So maybe before we do that, we can get to know you just a little bit, and maybe just start with, I think I'm going to start removing the city part of it. And so maybe you can just tell the audience kind of what state you're calling from, and then what your favorite book is and why.
So I'm calling in from Ohio.
Okay.
The Ohio side of the city. And my favorite book, it's corny, it's kind of cheesy, especially because they made a live action movie of it, but Wuthering Heights.
Okay.
Call me boring for it, but I'm a sucker for, it's basically like a death stage romance.
Okay, yeah.
It's a tragic romance where almost anyone dies at the end.
Yeah, here's my thing. In the current state of the world, having a favorite book and actually reading, I'm never going to consider someone boring. Maybe I shouldn't say this, because I always get nervous because I'm not the anonymous one. People can find me. People probably can't find you. But yeah, I find it boring when people don't read books or don't have a favorite book. So I don't really care what it is. I just love that people are reading and still find enjoyment in that. And so yeah. I no judgment on your favorite book. But is there anything else that kind of why it stands above all the rest of the books that you like?
I'm a person who enjoys the classics, and I'm a romance reader.
Okay, yeah.
And Wuthering Heights just kind of checks off the tragic romance, but also it's a classic.
Yeah.
It's not something that's commonly read in schools anymore.
Yeah. Reading classics is not an easy thing.
No, it's not. Frankenstein is such a boring classic, but everyone's like, oh my God, I love it so much. I'm like, no.
No.
Give me Dracula any day.
Well, I love that. And I have this big list that I continue to add everyone's favorite books to. And so it is probably not the weirdest, but it's probably up there as one of the weirdest book lists out there, because it's just such a wide variety of things. There's kids' books on there, there's classics, there's a lot of death-related books. So I'm excited to add yours to the list. And yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this and hear what you think, especially with how you kind of phrased it in the initial question. But what are your thoughts on what do you think happens when we die?
When we die, I see it a lot in my day-to-day life. There's at least 2 people a week that I see die in front of me. And sometimes I'm like, I hope it's just a really long nap for this person. They seem really, really tired. Other people, I'm like, I hope you have something amazing waiting for you after this.
Mm.
And so, I think my view on it changes from day to day.
Yeah.
Because there's some people who are like, I just want to sleep. And I'm like, I feel that, man.
Yeah, life is exhausting.
Other people, it is. And then there are those other people who are like, I really hope I see my family. And I'm like, I hope you see your family too, because they sound amazing.
Yeah. When you say really long nap, is that is it really a nap and you wake up rested and then it's okay, not that you necessarily remember, but it's okay, round 2, time to go back and human again? Or is a really long nap just, in my beliefs, is a really long nap kind of game over?
I like to think that the really long nap is you're going to sleep and then you wake up one day and you're like, okay, it's time to human again.
Okay.
Let me redo the things that I wish I could have redone.
Oh, okay.
I like to believe everyone has 3 chances before eternal sleep.
Okay. 3 lives.
If you didn't learn the lesson if you didn't learn the lesson the first time, you'll learn it again and again and again and again and again. The universe has some sort of plan for everyone, and whatever God you believe in has some sort of plan for everyone.
Yeah. So
I like to believe that plan comes in threes.
Okay. So do you feel like, because now my mind's going in so many different directions, trying to kind of parse out this kind of idea. Because originally, a really long nap, I'm like, okay, we can go a couple different ways with this. And now we have this kind of like 3 lives idea. Is this kind of like, and I don't know why, I think now my head's into video games and stuff, but like, is it, okay, now you get to relive your life again, and not necessarily that you remember that you're reliving your life again, but because you're going to live it again, the odds of you making the exact same choices that you made the previous life, very, very, very small, because there's an infinitesimal number of decisions that we make in our lifetime. So to repeat that again would be insane. So you're going to do things differently. Whether you remember or not, you're going to do it differently. Or is it like a reincarnation type of thing and you're living a different life? If those kind of 2 different things make sense, if I explain that well.
They do make sense. I mean, if you do want to look at it from a video game point of view, it's like you played Mario, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's played Mario at least one point in their life.
Yeah. If you haven't, get on it, people.
Yeah. It's like if you're running a Mario map, say you're running like the 50th level of a Mario game, and there's like 3 different choices you can make.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna take the easiest way first. It's like that's human nature. It's to take the easiest way first.
Yeah.
So you take the easiest way, and it doesn't go the way that you wanted. You didn't do all the things you wanted to do, or you didn't complete all the quest lines you wanted to complete. Okay, fine. So you run this kind of middle choice, the average life, as most people would say. And you got some of the things you wanted to get done, and you got some of the quest lines completed. But you didn't complete all of them, and you still kind of made some dumb decisions. So then you go back, and finally it's the hard path. And on the hard path, maybe you do remember some of the things. Like maybe you get the sense of deja vu, like, oh, I think I've done this before, but I don't remember where I've done it before. So instead of making the choice that is giving you the deja vu, you're like, okay, well, maybe let me make this different choice. Instead of having coffee in the mornings, I'll have water. Or instead of having like steak every day for lunch, I'll have salads and chicken and like pasta. I'll vary my life.
Yeah.
And I like to believe that like somewhere along that line, those choices kind of add up and they give you kind of a balance that gives you the life that you wanted or that you were meant to live. And you get that eventually.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes you pick the easy path all 3 times. And all 3 times you make the same mistakes, or sometimes you pick the hard path and you get the good life all 3 times. But at the end of the day, it comes down to me, whether or not you see like the same people that you had in one life. Are you going to see them in another? Or are you going to make the decision that's going to take you out of the path of those people?
I like this idea a lot. This is not something that I've heard. And I totally understand that, like, the way that you also started this whole conversation was like, some days I believe something and, and some days I believe in something else, which I totally get. Like, I feel like most of my days it is nothing happens. But then, yeah, some days I'm like, oh, yeah, there's got to be something else. There's collective consciousness or whatever it is. So I get that we are hitting you on a day where this is kind of, or at least we're diving into this idea that may not necessarily ring true tomorrow, but right now it feels right. And it's very interesting because the thing I really like about the idea of reincarnation, or just kind of this idea that there are lessons to be learned here. And so kind of taking your idea further, these 3 lives, and I'm not necessarily forcing you to stick to this idea of 3, but you do the run, you go through these lives, then what?
That's fair. I actually haven't given it much thought beyond like what happens after you've learned all the lessons.
Maybe like that's a lot of lives. Like that's a lot of time. I can't think that far ahead.
Mario finally rescuing Peach from Bowser's castle. Like the lore of it says that they go on and they live happily ever after and they get married and they have however many kids they have. Or maybe it's like once you've learned all the lessons you need to learn, you finally get a run where everything goes as it should. Everything goes smoothly. And you live a super long life, and when you pass, you're surrounded by everyone who loves and cares about you. And some of those people are new people. Some of those people are people you've met before. And some of those people are people who you may have met briefly in passing, but this time you've learned the lessons, you've learned the things you need to learn, and you've just decided, like, hey, I've done this. Like, this is what I get now.
Yeah.
This is what I deserve because I've done the work.
Yeah. And so the other thing that you said really early on was you work in this profession where you see death, I'm going to say frequently, a whole lot more than the majority of people. And so you did say that there's some people that you hope it's this really long nap. And then I ran down this whole tangent and made you answer all these ridiculous questions and tried to tease out everything from that. And we went into this video game analogy, which was awesome. But then you also said that there's people that you come across that you just really hope that they get to see the people that they loved and have lost. And so I think that's another aspect of this idea that you want. And I know from your application, I know that you mentioned that you have lost people very close to you. And so I'm curious how that plays into what you believe. And I think part of the belief in my mind is there's an aspect of what you believe and what you hope. And I'm assuming, these important people that maybe there's a part of you that wants to see them again. Maybe you should kind of tell that story a little bit and maybe give some context to the viewers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the biggest impact to me was he was my childhood best friend, and we grew up together, and he was also like, I can't say my high school sweetheart, but he was pretty close to it. Like, he was my ride or die. We were each other's everything. It's that kind of love you have for someone that you see in those rom-coms where it's, oh, this is my childhood sweetheart. Like, this is the person that I said at 9 years old I would marry. Like, we're getting married.
Yeah.
And we did like the fake playground wedding and everything. It was that kind of thing. It was during COVID, actually. We were both 16. He got weed for studying because he had anxiety and finals were coming up. And the weed was laced with fent.
Oh,
and
shit.
It's the same story that you saw a lot during that time. A kid gets something laced with fent and it's an accidental overdose because people don't know how to do it. He was rushed to the hospital, but instead of him surviving that, he passed away.
Wow.
And I happened to be there, and
Oof.
I was giving him CPR and doing everything. We called 911.
And you said you were 16?
And it was touch and go for a bit. Yeah, I was.
Shit. So you were not a nurse at this point. You were, yeah. Okay.
I was.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was a student. You're good. So he passed away. And for a while, I was really angry about it because why would the universe take away someone so young and so important to so many people?
Yeah.
But as I went and got my nursing degree, as I went and did my schooling, my clinicals, I saw a lot of people who had a similar story to mine. They had teenagers who had lost a friend to a car accident, kids who had lost parents to cancer, parents who had lost their kids to cancer, people who had lost their kids to suicide. Like, I saw all of these tales and they mirrored my own. They weren't exact, but they were pretty close.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the idea of maybe there's lessons we learn in this life that we'll get in another life. And I'll admit that my friend, that person who passed, definitely was implemental in shaping that view.
Yeah.
Because losing someone so young right in front of you, yeah, it scars your psyche, but it also opens up the curiosity. It's a little morbid, I'll admit, but it opens up the curiosity of what actually happens.
Yeah.
Why does this happen rather than him surviving? Like, why are these things happening?
Yeah, for sure.
And then some people have seen it framed as, why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen to me? Why do I always lose the people that I love? It didn't frame itself that way for me. It framed itself more as, how can I see this person again?
Mm.
So yeah, I do kind of hope that I'll see him again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have questions.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure. I think that was really interesting thing that you said at the end, how death can frame itself in a multitude of ways, and like how it can continue to happen to me, or how it can open up this curiosity. Was this the reason or part of the reason that you ended up becoming a nurse?
It was one of the reasons.
Yeah.
The other reason was my mom. I wanted to be able to take care of her and not have her worry about things.
Mm.
And then, lo and behold, I decided to go as a pediatric nurse. So now I work with kids.
Which has got to be interesting.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
Kids are also another big reason why I'm like curious about what happens. Because I've had kids go ahead and ask me like, what's going to happen if I die? And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I don't actually have an answer for that. I don't know.
And is that something that because I have had a guest on, and I really don't like to bring other people's stories in or whatever, but at least for context, I have had another guest on who worked in like pediatric oncology. And so they were speaking to kids specifically about telling kids and having to be around kids who are dying. And so when you talk about, you see on average, or however you want to say it, like 2 people a week die, is that children? Is that part of your experience? Or is it mostly adults?
Some of them are kids.
Okay.
Some of them are kids. Some are definitely adults. I'd say that adults are the more common.
Yeah.
Because I don't work in an oncology suite. I work in general pediatric suite. So I'm seeing kids that are coming out of surgery, or I'm seeing kids who are going into surgery.
Yeah.
Or I'm working on the ER floor where kids are coming in with like broken bones and everything.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky that I don't see a lot of kids die. But adults is another story.
Yeah.
I see a lot of elders who come in and who've had a heart attack or a stroke. And we do everything we can, but we can't save everyone.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's also kind of shaped it. Like, if I get the feeling that you're satisfied with your life, I'm like, I hope you see the people who love you after all of this. Like,
Yeah.
I hope that this is something you see. If I can sense that you are like one of those people who still has more that you want to do, more that you haven't accomplished, I'm like, okay, this is someone who has more lessons to learn.
Yeah.
As someone who has more things they're trying to get done, they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to atone for something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
totally.
it's also not my place to judge like
Yeah.
people's lives or anything.
And then you had another loss too, right? After this kind of childhood best friend, or maybe before, I don't know.
So the other one was my dad. I was not at home at the time, and my mom found him, but he committed suicide in our garage.
Okay.
And it was a little gruesome. My mom found him, and it was definitely not something that you want your kids to see. But at the same time, that's also kind of where my like morbid curiosity kind of starts. Is why did he make this decision?
Yeah. And was this?
It's been almost 5 years, so.
So that was after your childhood best friend.
That one was actually before.
Before, okay, okay.
It was before that school year even started.
So yeah, that was a very weird year for you.
Oh, yeah. I'm convinced that year, because I also got COVID that year like 6 times.
Oh, God.
I'm convinced that year was just someone somewhere had it out for me and was like, I don't want you to have a good year at all.
You had a lot of lessons
like,
to learn that year, apparently.
Oh, yeah. That year kind of shaped who I am today. When you lose a ton of people at a really young age, not young enough that you can't remember them, it's the smack dab in the middle of your like formative years. You're discovering who you are. It takes, like, I was in therapy after it. I didn't understand what my therapist meant when she said, you can become one of 4 people. You can become the compassionate person who is understanding, but is also a little bit of a pushover. You can become the person who blames everyone for everything going on around you.
Yeah.
You can become the person who is angry at the world and is not wanting to find a way to fix the world the way it is. Or you can become the person who's compassionate and angry at the world and is trying to fix it.
Where do you think you landed?
And I became the person. I became the person who became angry at the world at first, but it cooled down into compassion, and now I'm like, I want to fix whatever is wrong in the world that drives people to such means.
And so, was this the start of kind of this curiosity, or had you always kind of had this? It's the term that we're using. Have you always kind of had this morbid curiosity, or were these the events that kind of like really spurred it on?
These were the events that really spurred it on.
Okay.
Before I was 15, 16, I wanted to be a surgeon.
Oh.
I wanted to understand why people worked the way that they did. I didn't want to know like what happened afterwards. I didn't care. I just wanted to know, why does your brain work the way that it does? Yeah. And I was well on my way to becoming a neurosurgeon.
You were very kind of into the medical world.
Oh, yeah. Both of my parents were medical professionals.
Okay.
And my family's also military, so there's that aspect of it too.
Okay. And so then, I mean, I think with where I started this project and kind of what I'm exploring with this is my own fears around death and mortality and that. Where do you land on that? Is death something that you fear?
I don't think I'm afraid of death. I think I'm more afraid of leaving people behind.
Yeah.
I have a very strong attachment to the people in my life right now. Like, I live with my best friend, and my other best friend lives about 3 states away.
Okay.
And my mom lives 3 states away as well. There's that fear of leaving those people behind. I'm not exactly afraid of death.
Yeah.
It's something that happens.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid of if and when I die, how is it going to impact those people?
Yeah.
Is it going to break them in a way that can't be fixed? Or is it going to be something that is a weight on them? And so there's like that fear in the back of my mind that colors my decisions now. But I've also kind of learned to live with it because you can't control.
I was going to say, that's kind of the only option, really.
You die. Yeah, you can't control when you die.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends said it in a way like today that was so perfect. It's not about when you die. It's about how much of an impact you leave behind.
Yeah.
You can work as much as you want. You can have all the money in the world. You can have all the success in the world, but does that success matter in the face of have you spent time with the people that you love, the people that love you? Or have you just worked and worked and worked and worked to try and give them a good life? Both choices are valid.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be the person that says, don't work hard for the things that you want. I will be the person that says, will you regret it down the line?
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I've definitely learned when you have mortality as kind of a lens that you're looking through. It helps you make better decisions around that exact thing. Like you said, I'm not going to tell people not to work, but are you sure you're working in the way that you really want to be? Are you really aligning with who you want to be, where you want to be? Because there's a ton of external pressures that are going to push you to do a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to do, and you're not going to necessarily be aware of it. But when you start thinking about your mortality, I think it just kind of switches things for you a little bit. But the other thing that I was going to say, at least in my mind, it's not necessarily shocking that you have this kind of response to my fear around it is leaving people behind, because to some extent you have really, really experienced that by losing 2 really important people in your life.
Oh, yeah. And I've seen it in other people too.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure.
I watched this. It was a set of like 15 high school girls come in, accompanying one of their friends who's on the cheer team with them. And she was getting treatments for cancer. And there was a point where in a surgery, they thought that she was going to pass. They thought that she was going to die because of complications with where her tumors were. And I remember I was sitting with all of those girls in the lobby, trying to keep them calm and trying to keep like peace. And I asked them what their happiest memories with her were. And all of the memories were of the times that she had helped them. And I remember asking them, why are all the memories of the times that she's helped you? Why are none of them of the times that she spent with you? And she's still alive. She's been in remission for like a year and a half, I think now. But I remember the look very clearly on this one young lady's face where she looked at me and she was like, I don't know. Maybe it's because she's always helping us so that we don't feel sad when she goes.
Oof.
I think the last I heard from them, they have a bunch of happy memories with each other now. I'm pretty sure they're off to college.
Yay.
But it was that answer that kind of solidified for me. I don't want to just be remembered as someone who helped. I want to be remembered as someone who helps and someone who people enjoy being around. Because you can help all the people that you want. If you're in the medical field, you know this. You help people all day long.
Yeah.
As a nurse, you're bandaging knees. As doctors, you're checking patients, you're prescribing medications. As practitioners, all of us have that same thing where Are we going to be remembered as someone who helps, or are we going to be remembered as someone who spends time with people? And I think that's why so many in the medical community, at least people that I've talked to or people that I'm friends with, there's a saying, don't date first responders. Because we're always on the go. We don't exactly have time to spend with the people that we love. But when we do, we spend it.
Yeah, it seems like it's maybe not just mine. I think a lot of people's understanding of the medical world is what we see on TV and in movies. And so I could totally see how it's very easy to get wrapped up in that and have a hard time to get away because there's always another person to help, or at least that's what it seems like. How do you kind of find time for yourself? And I think it is amazing that you have that realization, at least, because that probably is half the battle of at least knowing that, hey, I need to be a person that still like has experiences with people and they remember me for that, not just the fact that I helped others.
Oh, yeah. The pit is actually it's a pretty accurate representation of what it's like being the night shift in a hospital.
Oof.
You have maybe one or two doctors, you have a couple residents, and then the rest of it's just nurses.
And a lot of chaos, it seems.
Oh, yeah. There's always someone screaming, and there's always that one person who's like, does anyone know where the caffeine is? I'll admit I'm usually the person asking, does anyone know where the caffeine is? Please tell me that we have caffeine in the fridge.
Come on, fingers crossed.
Because if you're working a job where you're seeing a lot of people who are injured or are going to die or are actively dying, you kind of become numb to it after a while.
Yeah.
Like the first couple deaths kind of shock you to your core.
I'm sure, yeah.
Like, you're like, oh my God, they just died in front of me. I couldn't do anything. I did everything. I did all of the things I was taught, and they died in front of me. And then by the 20th, you're like, okay, they died. Gave myself a few seconds to grieve the death, game face, and you just keep moving. If you dwell on it, you just kind of get burdened.
Yeah.
So we put it out of our minds. We move on. We get through the rest of the shift. And then when we go home, sometimes you can't sleep. Sometimes you sleep really good. I think that's why so many people are like, oh my God, you're a nurse. You're such a lifesaver. When really you're not so much a lifesaver as you are someone who's there to comfort people in their final moments or to tell people you're not allowed to die. You have a wife and kids waiting for you, or you have a husband and kids waiting for you, or you have a boyfriend waiting for you. You have something waiting for you. Get up.
Yeah.
Get up, get out of bed, like snap out of it. Sometimes you have to be the person that says, remember what you said. Remember your promise. You said you wouldn't, so don't. And sometimes you get people who resent you for that.
I'm sure, which I'm sure is not fun either when you're trying to help.
I would rather have someone be angry at me for yelling in their face than have someone be apathetic and just sitting in the bed. And I'm like, dude, get out of bed.
Yeah, it's a shitty exchange to some extent, but it's like you said, then you have to figure out a way to separate yourself from that and not be consumed by it and not take it personally, which I imagine is way easier said than done, especially when you're trying to find the caffeine and you're tired and exhausted and someone's screaming at you.
Oh, yeah. There are times you have to bite your tongue. At the end of the shift, though, it all becomes worth it when you have that one family come up to you and they're like, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're like, I was just doing my job, but hell yeah, dude.
You're like, I almost quit, but that brought me back in.
Yeah.
So the story that you talked about with this like group of cheerleaders, are there other things? Because I think there's the whole, and I probably should know them by now, but there's like the famous 5 things people always talk about on their deathbed. You know, like, I wish I lived a life more authentic to who I was. I wish that I didn't work so hard, you know, those type of things. Are there other things that you have taken away that you've learned from these experiences with death and being close to it?
Yeah, there was a gentleman who had come in who had a heart attack. It's the same story. Everyone knows the story because it's so common. A gentleman in his late 70s comes in, heart attack, history of heart disease. We can't save him. And on his deathbed, you're like sitting with them because they have, this one in particular had a DNR because he was just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
It wasn't his first heart attack. So he'd signed a DNR. And on his deathbed, he was surrounded by nurses, and that was it. And we asked him, is there anyone we can call? And his words, I still hear his voice clear as day. I don't have anyone because I told them that I never wanted to see them again.
Oh.
And I remember asking him, when did you say that? And he said, and he told me this story. 20 years ago, he had gotten into a fight with his adult children because they had said that he was exhibiting behaviors that they didn't want around their children. So he told them that he never wanted to see them again if they couldn't respect who he was at the time. And the last thing he said was he wished that he had told them that he loved them instead of saying he never wanted to see them again.
Oh, God.
And he said that if I ever came across someone who was in his shoes, to tell them to talk to the person, just talk to them. It doesn't matter if it becomes an argument, just talk to them.
Yeah.
It's better, he said, to work out the problem than to let it grow and fester.
Oh.
My mom says the same thing too. So I'm slightly convinced that she's like heard these things from other people too.
Yeah.
But that solidified another portion of who I am. No matter what happens, I'm still going to have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten into arguments with my best friend so many times. We're all in our 20s. So it's kind of normal for us to get into arguments. And I'm the youngest one.
So they're always
21.
beating up on
And
you. They're always
then-
picking on you.
Kind of. They're more like trying to guide me because
Yeah,
they're both
totally.
older than me.
Yeah.
But we've gotten into arguments, and it's sometimes I just want to stew in my anger and not talk to them. And sometimes they want to stew in theirs and not talk to me. But at the end of the day, we have the conversation of what happened and how we were feeling, and we explain the sides of what is going on.
Yeah.
What was happening in her, what was happening in her mind, what was happening in his mind, what was happening in mine. And we talk about it because it's harder to have the conversation, but it saves something good.
Yeah.
I would rather have the difficult conversation than lose two of the most important people to me.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to my mom for like 6 years. And when I started talking to her again, I apologized. I said, I'm sorry that I was so stubborn about this. I'm sorry that I didn't have this conversation with you. And she was like, it's okay because we're talking now.
Yeah. It might be a difficult conversation to have, but to your point, you can have the difficult conversation or you can postpone it, which is easier in a sense, but the long-term ramifications of that are way more difficult. I think there's extreme cases where it's like, yeah, probably good not to talk. But by and large, yeah, it's better just to have that difficult conversation and keep those lines of communication open at least. Yeah, that's definitely another one of those moments I'm sure that like that'd be pretty much impossible for you to forget. That's something that will be with you for your life, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I have maybe one last question for you. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I love that. I don't know. We've kind of been all over the place in the most wonderful way. I mean, we were talking about Mario at one point, and now we're talking about a guy after a heart attack who like hadn't talked to his kids for 20 years. I mean, that's what I love about this podcast and like talking to the strangers because it's so wild and random. But I like to kind of come back with one question at the end. So I'll be curious to hear what you think. What's one thing you still want to experience in this life?
I want to be there for both of my sister's weddings and both of my best friends' weddings. For my best friends to give the really embarrassing speech of their finest moments in our 20s.
You're like, these fights
And
that
for
we
my
had,
sisters,
I'm taking notes and I'm taking tabs and it's going to come up during my speech.
oh, it definitely is. They're going to try and take the microphone away from me and I'm going to be like, no. No. But for my sisters, I want to be able to tell them at their weddings how proud I am of how far they've come, how proud I am of the people they've grown up into. Because if anyone who's an older sibling,
I was going to say, you have to be the oldest then, right?
From the moment I am indeed the oldest.
I was going to say, the way that you're
see them
phrasing
from
this, I can just tell. Sorry, continue.
Oh, yeah. The moment you see them come home from the hospital, at least in the case of one of them. The other one, I was there in the hospital after she was born. But they're to put it plainly. They're ugly alien red things. They look like wrinkled beans. And they stay that way for a couple of weeks. And then they start to fatten up. And then a couple months later, you're like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. And then a couple years later, you're like, never mind, this sucks. They're so annoying. They're taking my toys.
Yep.
And then they're in elementary school and you're a teenager and you're like, can you just go find your own friends, please? And stop bothering me and mine. And then you're an adult and they're in high school and you're like, oh my God, they're graduating this year. Like, oh my God, they're becoming adults. Where has the time gone? Like, my youngest sister is graduating in June from high school.
Yeah.
And sometimes all I can see is her still being that annoying 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Chasing me and my best friends around the school trying to hang out with us and talk to us.
You're like, no, not happening.
Exactly. And now she's got her own friends. She's got her own relationships. She's her own person. And I'm like, I'm proud of both of them.
I was the younger child. I have an older sister. And a lot of what you said rings very true to our relationship where, well, she always, I think when my parents had me, my sister wanted a little sister. She was not pumped to have a little brother. We did not get along. And then it was like the minute she left for college, she's 3 years older than me. She left for college and it was like, wait a second. I think I kind of liked having you around. And now it's weird that you're not around. And then it was like we became so close the minute that she left for college. So I feel like very, very similar paths. I'm just on the other side of it. I was the one that, I don't know if I was trying to hang out with her friends, but I definitely annoyed her and was bothering her all the time.
When the middle child was born, when my younger sister was born, not the youngest, when she was born, I wanted a little brother so badly. I wanted a little brother so I could dress him up and he could be like a little sailor. And my mom came home with my younger sister. My mom and dad came home with her and I was sitting there and I was like, are you kidding me?
You're like, this bean is not a boy.
And then the youngest one, I was so hoping it was a boy. I remember telling my mom at 4 years old, Mommy, I hope it's a boy. I want a little brother. I was at the hospital
it's like, oh,
when
shoot.
She was born. And I looked at her, like my dad picked me up, and I was looking down at her, and I was like, this is a girl. And my
you
mom
guys
was
messed
like, yeah,
up again.
This is your baby sister. And I was like, they gave you the wrong one.
Yeah.
I wanted a boy.
We already have one
and
of
then
these.
I looked at her
Can we get the other kind?
I'm like, we already have one. And she poops all day. Because they're a year and a half apart.
Yeah, totally.
They're a year and a half apart. So I looked at her and I was like, this is the wrong kind. I wanted a boy. Can we trade her for a boy? And I remember my mom kind of laughing. She was a bit exhausted at the time. And she was like, no, we can't, but you'll grow to love her. And my mom was right. It just
took longer than anybody planned.
It took about 3 months for me to finally be like, okay. And I love this. Like, I love it.
I'm assuming your two best friends are the ones that you're talking about too, that you want to be there for their weddings. Is anybody close? But the sisters are probably not close. What about the friends? Are they close to getting married at any point?
Hopefully, fingers crossed that the one I live with will be getting married in the next couple years.
Perfect.
Fingers crossed.
Perfect.
Because if she gets married in the next couple of years, I'm helping her mom plan the wedding. And it's going to be great.
Perfect.
We have fingers crossed for all of us.
Well, you'll definitely have to report back. I feel like anytime, this question especially, I'm like, message me. Let me know. I want to hear that you went on this trip or you did this or did that. And so I hope that, fingers crossed, it happens in the next couple of years. You get to plan it. It's amazing. And that you have the best, it's like a viral speech of just epic proportions. I hope that's what happens. But yeah, thank you so much for...
It'll be the most epic speech. We'll have a slideshow and everything.
Oh gosh. It's just going to show up on the internet everywhere. And I'm like, oh yeah, I talked to her a couple years ago. But yeah, in general, I just want to say thank you for being willing to do this. Like I already mentioned, it was such a fun conversation to be talking about Mario and then all these really deep things. Thank you so much for being willing to do this.
Of course. This is the best conversation I've had in a while.
Yes. One of the people that I had on a while ago, they were like, yeah, this is the longest I've probably talked to anybody about this topic. And then almost immediately wait, this is the longest I've talked on the phone in a very long time. And so, yeah, I love having these conversations. I love meeting new people. Which is like, if you ask any of my friends, they're like, who the fuck are you? Because I am a hermit, but I do love having these deep conversations, hearing these stories. And yeah, I'm glad that you're willing to be a part of it.
Of course. Also, I feel you on being a hermit. I haven't left. It's my day off. It's my week off. I haven't left my apartment all week.
Yes, that's what I like to hear.
I've subsided on video games, popcorn, and sweet dreams.
That's what I call living the life. You're doing it right. I know a lot of people would say that I'm wrong, but I don't care. You're doing exactly how we're supposed to do it. Also, you did add in a strange conversation with a stranger for an hour. So, you didn't do nothing. You're doing a lot of things. So thank you, and definitely stay in touch. I hope you have a good rest of your day and enjoy more popcorn, video games, and sweet dreams.
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Perfect. All right. Well, you take care.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
There's something about talking to someone who's been that close to death. Not once, not just in passing, but regularly as part of their day-to-day. And finding out that what they're most afraid of isn't dying, it's leaving. It's the people they'd leave behind. And when you understand what they've lived through, that makes complete sense. They know exactly what loss feels like. They were on the other side of it at 16 doing CPR on someone they loved, and they never forgot it. What's really amazing about that, as awful as it was, is that it didn't close them off, or at least not in the long run. It opened something up. A curiosity, a career, a way of being present with people that most will never fully understand. And somehow they still have this lightness and joy to them. A couple things before I let you go. I'm headed into retreat in 2 weeks, and I'm doing my best to still have an episode out that week. But I want to be honest with you that I'm not exactly sure yet. The last few weeks have been a lot. Getting Dawn's episode finished, edited, and out into the world while also processing my own feelings around all of it took a lot more out of me than I expected. I'll keep you posted and give you more info next week. And then the last thing, and this connects directly to last week's episode with Don. One of the things that came out of his first interview over a year ago was that having something recorded, something honest that captured what he was going through, meant he didn't have to keep retelling it. He could just share it. That response from him is what inspired me to create Mnemosity in the first place. And his exit interview last week, in a lot of ways, is exactly what I want to do for more people. Sitting with someone before they're gone and capturing their stories, their memories, the things that they've carried, the things that are important to them. Something real to leave behind for their loved ones. To launch it, I'm doing something a little different. A teacher of mine practices something called the gift economy. The short version is it's not free and it's not a fixed price. I'll link my teacher's article in the show notes because he can explain it better than I can. But it just felt like the right way to begin something like this. I'm only going to be taking a small number of people to start. If you or someone you love has a story worth capturing, you can learn more at mnemosity.com. That's NEMOSENE.com. And if you're interested in booking one of these launch sessions, you can email me at zach@whenwedietalks.com. All right, I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode of When We Die Talks. These conversations don't offer answers, but they do open space. Space to reflect, to feel less alone, and maybe to see things a little bit differently than before. If you'd like to explore your own beliefs out loud, you can apply to be an anonymous caller at whenwedietalks.com. And if a full call feels like too much, the voicemail is always open. Leave a message at 971-328-0864 and share whatever death has stirred in your life. Listener support truly helps keep this project going. If you'd like to support the podcast, you'll find a link in the show notes. And as always, please like, share, and follow. Every bit makes a difference. Until next time, have a good life.